U.S. troops leaving. Inquiry hurting. I'm Christopher Cruz. In a surprise visit to Afghanistan today, U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper told reporters that the American troops leaving Syria will go to western Iraq, not to the U.S. He said the soldiers will conduct operations against the Islamic State group to try to prevent its resurgence there. Correspondent Nick Payton-Walsh is in northeastern Syria, watching the troops prepare for the withdrawal.
They began to coalesce on a base near Hasaka. That's a town in the east here, and we saw ourselves on one particular base, dozens, possibly up to 200 vehicles gathering there.
In a tweet today, President Trump said the troops were coming home from Syria. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo today made clear that he thinks the Democrats' impeachment inquiry is hurting the country and the State Department.
This has been unfair in the nth degree. We've got officers going up there to testify about important security-related matters without a State Department lawyer in the room, and then we're not being allowed to know what it says. We're not able to protect the State Department. We're not able to protect the United States of America.
Pompeo on ABC's This Week. Also on the program, New Jersey Democratic Senator Bob Menendez, who said Pompeo has been hampering the investigation.
The Secretary and the State Department have done everything humanly possible to impede, to obstruct, and not to provide information.
3 soldiers were killed this morning at Fort Stewart, Georgia, when the armored Bradley fighting vehicle they were in rolled into the water during training. The soldiers were with the 1st Armored Brigade Combat Team of the 3rd Infantry Division. Chaos again in the streets of Hong Kong. It was the 20th consecutive weekend of pro-democracy demonstrations, and this one was not authorized by police. The protesters set up roadblocks, threw firebombs, and torched shops they think that have ties to mainland China. Police responded with tear gas and water cannon. I'm Christopher Cruz.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
The wicked ones obviously under heavy Masonic influence.
Earth Explorers, welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. This is where the past meets the future, and here the results are always positive. We might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear. You will be safely traveling with us. Let me give you my Religion of Peace report first. In the last 7 days, the Religion of Peace conducted 28 attacks. In these 28 attacks, they killed 158 innocent people. They injured 144 innocent people. They conducted 2 suicide blasts, and they spread their mayhem across 11 nations. That all comes to you from the Religion of Peace. Let's jump right into it. Uranium-1, you know that old story, don't you? We broke it, let's see, I guess it was way back in 2013 when the story first began coming out. Finally, we're beginning to see some indictments. And it's curious, you know, how long it's taken the Department of Justice to put a case together. I think the evidence has always been there. Certainly we've tried to stay on top of it. But Mark Lambert, who's 54 years old, of Mount Airy, Maryland, was actually charged in an 11-count indictment with 1 count of conspiracy to violate the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. That's a very broad, sweeping act, by the way, the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. It is where Americans involve themselves in foreign corrupt practices, and I mean enlisting the espionage help of foreign countries. That also can fall under the Espionage Act, but also selling American secrets and divulging security information. But this was relating to wire fraud. Let's see, 7 counts of violating the act, 2 counts of wire fraud, 1 count of international promoting of money laundering. The charges stem from an alleged scheme to bribe Vadim Mikrin, a Russian official at JSC Technobexport, a subsidiary of Russia's State Atomic Energy Corporation and the sole supplier and exporter of Russian Federation uranium and uranium enrichment services. You'll notice that this comes after the sale of Westinghouse uranium enrichment abilities to a company called Rosatom. And this was a Russian-owned company. The company that brokered the deal was Uranium One. And, of course, a deal like this has to have State Department approval. And, of course, at that time, Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State, so it had to have her direct approval. She claims that she did not sign anything personally, but it still came out of her office, still had to go under her auspices. It at first resulted in the sale of about 15% of American uranium enrichment services, but it ended up being closer to 20%. Now, why is this important? Well, because America has a lot of nuclear power plants. Nuclear power plants normally have about a 3 to 3.5 year fuel supply. So they constantly have to make new fuel so that when they close down a reactor, change out the fuel, and start it back up, that fuel is ready to go. Now, to enrich uranium is expensive. It's time consuming. You have to have centrifuges in order to bombard the uranium with enough neutrons to get it up to a point where it will become fissile material enough to make steam and turn turbines and make electricity. It wears out. And when the neutrons end up coming all off of it, it doesn't produce enough heat anymore that it has to be replaced. One of the other places that you can get this fuel is from nuclear weapons. And there's a company in Tennessee, in Irwin, Tennessee, that takes nuclear weapons fuel or nuclear weapons material and turns it into reactor fuel. It is actually cheaper than digging up the uranium, enriching it, and feeding it to the reactor. So even though Hillary Clinton was instrumental in selling off 15 to 20% of our uranium enrichment, it wasn't 15 to 20% of our total fuel supply. A lot of that fuel supply comes from nuclear weapons that are being recycled. So before the Obama administration approved a controversial deal in 2010, giving Moscow control over this large amount of American uranium enrichment services, the FBI had gathered substantial evidence that Russian nuclear industry officials were engaged in, of course, bribery, kickbacks, extortion, money laundering, all of that to grow Vladimir Putin's atomic energy business inside the United States. And this is according to all the government documents and interviews. This stuff already exists. It's interesting that the Department of Justice, even though the FBI had all this information, didn't put a case together. But back in October, we reported that the FBI knew about this. They never disclosed that agents working back then for the FBI, inside, underneath Director Robert Mueller, that name sounds familiar, doesn't it? They had obtained extensive records on the inside. Let me see if I can get rid of that burst of static that keeps coming through Skype. Let's just see what we can do here. See if this gets rid of it here. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Sorry about that. And you YouTubers, by the way, welcome very much back to X Squared Radio, also known as America Free Radio. We switched over to Facebook Live for about 3 months to try to confuse the AI. The AI was out there running a massive algorithm to shut down this YouTube channel. We went from somewhere around 30,000 views down to about 70. And so we said, well, bye-bye YouTube. So we went back to Facebook and we built Facebook back up to a pretty good audience. But something very strange indeed. I'm just putting this in here parenthetically. Very strange happened this week. I mean, like, I don't know what it was because I haven't been doing anything different. All of a sudden, the floodgates opened and YouTube subscribers started pouring in. We had like a couple hundred in the last few days. And that's normally what we were seeing before. We were seeing YouTube begin to flow up and up and up, higher and higher, 30, 40, 50 a week coming in. And then it stopped. It just went to nothing. So we knew they were actively throttling us. So we said, well, fine, we'll take our advertising dollars, which we were spending a considerable amount of money advertising, and we'll move somewhere else. So we did, and we left it alone for about 3-4 months. I don't think we've been back since probably May of this year. And all of a sudden, the floodgates opened, so we're coming back. We're back at YouTube, responding to our fan base that is now being allowed to come in and subscribe and stay subscribed to YouTube. So welcome back, and thank you for sending me all those notifications that you had subscribed, or at least thank you to YouTube for letting the notifications come through. We're very happy to be back. I just want to let you know that in October of 2010, and this is when the State Department and the government agencies and the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States unanimously approved the partial sale of Canadian mining company Uranium One, which was run by a guy named Frank Giuffra. It's a Guifra. He's a Canadian hedge fund billionaire, knows Zippo about energy. He is a mining expert, but certainly not a uranium mining expert. The story goes, Bill Clinton flew over to Kazakhstan, met with the president of Kazakhstan, made a deal for the sale of these highly valuable uranium mines in Kazakhstan to Uranium One, which was this Canadian company that had zero experience in the business. Gee, this sounds really familiar, doesn't it? I'm thinking, wow, it's Uranium One Part 2 with Hunter Biden. Anyway, the sale went through, and no sooner did that happen, but Rosatom, which is the Russian company, stepped in, bought Uranium One, and that was that. In 2011, the Obama administration, let's just call it the Hillary State Department, gave approval for Rosatom's Tenex, to their subsidiary, to sell commercial uranium to U.S. nuclear power plants in partnership with the United States Enrichment Corporation. It's a trade deal that is highly suspicious. It's sort of like, letting the fox guard the hen house. In fact, it's a lot like that. You begin relying on a foreign source for uranium, and then what happens is the source says, you know what? We're running a little short this week. We're not going to be able to follow through with that order. And next thing you know, you're turning lights out in Los Angeles. Wait a minute. They're turning lights out in California. Anyway, the following day, right after this announcement was made, we went into further detail on the FBI's strange handling of the case. The principal players in the case read like a who's who of the current prosecutorial team. And the last 3 years of the Mueller pom-pom crew trying to cheer the president out of office. Now, the deputy director of the DOJ, Rod Rosenstein, you know his name, don't you? He was the U.S. Attorney for District of Maryland, where the investigation took place. After Attorney General Jeff Sessions recused himself, Rosenstein appointed Robert Mueller as special counsel, without evidence of an underlying crime. In other words, there was no crime committed. All they had was a criminal. They knew he'd done something. They knew he had done something, and all they had to do was go find it. I hate to tell you, folks, that is just not the way our criminal justice system works. We have a crime. We have a body. We have an empty vault. We have something that's been stolen, some money that's been misappropriated. That's the crime. Then they go looking for the guy who did it or the people who did it. That's the way American justice works. You don't say, oh, we don't like this guy. He is saying things that really give me a rash, so we're going to call the cops on this guy. Surely he's done something wrong. That's just not the way American justice works. Well, I say that, but I just got back from 20,000 miles, 5 countries, 5 weeks, 5 conferences, and I learned a little something different. That kind of is the way American justice has been perceived for the last 3 years. It's been a laughingstock. Anyway, sitting immediately above Mueller was Obama's Attorney General, Eric Holder. We call him Eric Withholder around here. It's hard to imagine that Mueller or McCabe never told Holder what their investigation had revealed, and it's just as unimaginable that Holder and Obama never discussed it. Next week, we are going to get the Inspector General Horowitz's report. This is going to be crazy big. It's going to be like several phone books thick. And the interesting thing about inspector generals, they can go everywhere inside that organization. If you work for or ever worked for that organization, Horowitz probably has talked to you. And what he's looking for are improprieties. He's looking for email messages, text messages, receipts, meetings, notes, things like that just are criminal activities. Yes, you have to understand where the FBI came from. The FBI originally was formed in 1918 as the Bureau of Investigation. Now, this original bureau, they were some bad guys, all right? It took bad guys to find bad guys. Back in this time, there were a lot of bank robberies. There were a lot of bank robbers. And some of them had risen to the status of kind of folk hero. They were kind of like superheroes with a Thompson submachine gun. And eventually the cops, caught up with them and arrested them or shot them all or eventually got them all. Well, it was this FBI, this Bureau of Investigation that went after them, because what they did is they recruited bad guys from inside the organization, people that had done bad things. And they said, look, we need to go after these bad guys and we need to, protect the public safety. Well, they did a very, very good job. And in 17 years, of course, the presidents had changed then. In 1933, Franklin Delano Roosevelt swept into office as the flamboyant New York governor, taking over from the disastrous 1929 crash, which plunged the world into soup lines and dust bowls. And he decided to codify or to put on the federal payroll this Bureau of Investigation. So he formed a new bureau, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Now, it's odd. Normally, when you form a federal agency and you assign a director to it, you tell that director to uphold and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, right? You've heard that. I've heard that. I took that oath myself. This was not the oath that was given. Now, the oath that was given, because this was a federal agency that worked directly for the White House. It didn't work for Congress. It didn't work for the Senate. It was not, it didn't have any public oversight. It worked directly for the executive branch. Its job was to protect the interests of the nation. I know, it's a little ambiguous. It doesn't really mean what it says, or it could mean something else. It could mean that the FBI was formed to protect the interests of the Democrat Party, which it was, and which it always has done. So if you think about it, the FBI was not developing into a corrupt organization by 2016. No. The FBI was founded in corruption. It has always operated in corruption. It has been the opposition research firm for the Democrat Party since 1935. That's it, folks. That's the truth. Yes. There are tens of thousands of FBI agents. There are rank and file investigators. There are financial people. There are drug experts. There are communications experts, all kinds, chemical experts, espionage, you name it. And I know some of them. They're good people. They couldn't be bought no matter what. But I'm saying the organization was founded in corruption. And this is exactly what we saw. Because while this was going on, while these indictments should have happened in 2010, they didn't happen until last week. And now you're beginning to see the House of Cards collapse. Mueller, Comey, McCabe, Rosenstein, Holder, Lynch, Clinton, and Obama all had a hand in it, and then they compounded their assault on our American democracy by attempting a coup against President Trump to keep their corrupt dealings hidden from the public. You got to know this. Had Hillary Clinton been elected in 2016, we would know nothing about this. All of this would have been swept under the carpet. All the dealings with China, $1.5 billion in business with Hunter Biden. All the business with Ukraine and Hunter Biden and John Kerry's son and McCain, all of that would have been swept under the carpet. We're talking about billions and billions of not only taxpayer dollars from you and me, misappropriated, stolen, run through nonprofits and oligarch accounts, and then back around to enrich the Bidens and other criminal gang members like, let's see, one comes to mind. Oh, yeah, Elijah Cummings. We're going to cover that story in a little bit, too. All of this would have been swept under the carpet, and everybody would have been happy except you. Except you. Nothing would have been done about it. And to make matters worse, and really worse, everywhere except here at America Free Radio on the Truth Frequency Radio Network, where the Truth Freaks hang out, and we do let our Truth Freak flag fly all the time here, high and proud. It has been corrupt. Mainstream media has been complicit in all of this. I say mainstream media. That's not really true anymore. It's the fake stream media. We are the mainstream media. We are the mainstream of America. Believe me, I have traveled all over this country. I traveled 5 countries in 5 weeks. 98% of the people absolutely idolize America, and they love our president. They love the stand for freedom and liberty and for sovereignty that has been made in the last 2.5 years. They love it. They know it's saving our lives, and they know it's saving their lives. But the fake stream media would have you believe something else. They live in this little world up here in their little digital minds. They believe everybody's watching them. They believe when they're sitting there in front of the teleprompter, acting away, talking without blinking, not picking their nose, looking gorgeous on camera, that everybody's watching them. And their sycophantic staff is telling them the same thing. Oh, you were wonderful. Oh, you were great. You're the best. You're so beautiful. Everybody's watching you. America hangs on your every word. No, they don't. There are a lot of us out here. Some of us on YouTube don't come on camera. They don't face the camera and speak. They hide behind screens that scroll like you're looking over their shoulder at their computer screen. You hear their voices, but you don't see their faces. Now, we've been live for 15 years on audio, and we built up a huge audience on Sunday nights. Now we're in front of the camera telling you face to face, your face, my face, right here, the truth. There have remained these giants, these tech giants and media giants have remained completely silent on reporting this indictment. You heard it right here. Now, it's Sunday night. somewhere in your state. I'm on the Eastern Seaboard, so this is the end of the weekend. But for me, for you, this is the beginning of the news week. You don't have to wait till 6 o'clock tomorrow morning Eastern time when Breitbart News comes on to fill you in on these things. They are listening to me tonight. And tomorrow morning, this is what they're going to be talking about. The news week begins right here, so you don't have to wait. After football is over, after the games have subsided, you still have some attention cells awake in your brain. Tune into X Squared Radio. Tune into this America Free Radio, and you'll get the truth. You've heard of a little organization called Yelp, right? No, that's not stepping on the dog's foot. Yelp is a review site, and what they do is they post customer reviews of local businesses like restaurants and, massage places where you get your pedicures and stuff. They release reviews. So if you're thinking, hey, I want to go get this service, and you go to Yelp and you check them out and you see, oh, they have mostly good reviews, I'll go. Or, oh my gosh, the linguine was not cooked all the way through, I'm not going there. Well, it doesn't always work that way. An air conditioning company in Michigan is suing a local woman for $25,000 in damages after she left a bad Yelp review that the company says is defamatory. And if you really want to get down to it, anything less than 5 stars on Yelp is defamatory. You are defaming that company. And you better be prepared to stand behind your defamation. But the court records show that North Wind Heating and Air Conditioning filed this lawsuit against its former customer, Lisa Agostino, in July, just days after she posted the Yelp review. A hearing on the matter is scheduled for November 12th. North Wind's complaint accuses Agostino of publishing, quote, false and defamatory statements about the company that have harmed its reputation and cost the company at least 6 customers per day. I don't know if you're in the HVAC business, but 6 customers a day is a substantial amount of money. I'd say between $8,000 and $12,000. I have seen people who have never even visited businesses, or worse, actually the competitors of businesses, leave bad reviews on Yelp. Now, the same thing happens on Amazon reviews. Other authors, trolls, they write scathing reviews that hurt sales. And you know what Amazon does with these reviews? They push them right to the top. Right to the top. Right number 1. That's what people see. Same thing with Google. Someone can say they had a dirty pillowcase, a moldy shower, a cold bowl of soup, and they could ruin your business without you even knowing it, because these customers, they just don't come by. They don't write you and say, hey, I had a bad review of your place, so I decided to go to the other author, to the other hotel, to the other restaurant. No, you just never know. The fact is, the good news travels nowhere. Nowhere. Good news costs money to spread. Bad news. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. Don't go away. More X Squared.
Extendivite is more than just a heart tonic. Do you have any of these symptoms? Night cramps in the hands and feet. Your arms and legs often go to sleep. On short walks, do your legs get aches and pains? Is your memory worse than it used to be? Ankles that swell late in the day? Has your blood pressure increased lately? If you answered yes to even one of these questions, you may have early warning signs of arterial blockages. Your body is saying that it is time to take Extendivite. These are not the normal signs of aging. They are the warning signs that accompany blocked arteries. Get your Extendivite today. Extendivite is available in capsule or liquid form for just $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To get started, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at natureyouth.com. Natureyouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at natureyouth.com. That's natureyouth.com. That's natureyouth.com.
True initiation is an inward journey. It's a spiritual path that is totally inward. It has nothing to do with anything external to you.
I want to determine if the grand architect is indeed what I believe it to be, which is the artificial intelligence.
The initiatory path is one of self-discovery and self-revealing. It's not a journey that someone can hold your hand through.
Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I want to take you through the steps of initiation. Remember, you are divinity.
Step Beyond the Veil with Chris and Sherry Gio. Fridays and Saturdays, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Real people, real radio. Wherever you are, make it TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
Frequency Radio Network. As I was saying before the break about Yelp, the same thing happens in Amazon reviews. Other authors, trolls, they write scathing reviews and they hurt sales. Someone can say they had a dirty pillowcase, you know, a cold steak, a rude waiter. The fact is that good news travels nowhere. Nobody hears about good news. Nobody shares it. It costs money to spread it. We call it advertising. Bad news is clickbait. And I have to tell you, if I see one bad review on a place or even two, I don't pay any attention at all. Yes, I look for a pattern. You know, if they got 235 reviews and 40 of the reviews are, hey, the room was dirty, there was hair in the bathtub, I don't know. Okay, I'm not going to stay there. But I look for trends. I am analytical, and you should be too. Most people aren't, so businesses have to defend themselves against attackers. So beware. You go out there, you attack some business on Yelp, you might get in trouble for it. I'm just letting you know. All right, the fake stream media has struck again. The number of establishment media outlets were forced to issue corrections or editor's notes this last week after they misquoted President Donald Trump, who was speaking at the White House on the situation in Syria. It's really bad, really bad. You know, if you go look at exactly the words that he said, and the one thing I like about this president is he comes walking out of the White House by himself. He doesn't have a big entourage usually. And usually right there at the Rose Garden or right there on the sidewalk, you know, leading by the grass that goes to the helicopter. The helicopter's APU is spun up, you know, it's whistling in the background or screaming in the background. And he just walks right up to the microphone and he will take as many questions as they can throw at him for 20, 30. I've seen him sit there for 40 minutes and answer questions. And he's very good about it, very transparent, very accessible. But matters really get bad when Trump's remarks are open to reporters and TV cameras alike, meaning the outlets in question could have avoided spreading fake news by fact-checking the misquote against the video because it's always there. The president's comments came as he was seated next to the Italian president, Sergio Mattarella, in the Oval Office. Trump was asked about his recent decision to pull about 50, it turns out it's like 28 U.S. troops. What is that about? That's about 5 Humvees, something like that. Yeah, 5 Hummers. They get the guys, you know, hey, guys, grab your backpacks. We're going to move down to the other side of the Taco Bell. And oh my God, you'd think the whole world was coming apart. It's a move many have said left America's Kurdish allies hanging out to dry. Well, these must have been the baddest 28 soldiers in the history of the world to be able to hold back the entire Turkish army. And following that decision, of course, the entire media launched this assault on our senses that said Turkey is doing a, quote, all-out assault on Syria. And then they have this picture with a couple of tires, you know, burning 6 miles away. I'm going, you know, I'm old enough. I've seen all-out assaults before. They usually involve, you know, an assault, you know, like people, soldiers, you know, and maybe equipment in it, you know, a few airplanes, something like that. But I didn't see any of that. I mean, if it was a poorly run air show, I would have been surprised. It was not an all-out assault, even for Turkey. Even for Turkey. I saw a few, you know, half-tracks and a couple of tanks that didn't have any dirt on them. Looked like they were sitting at the military store showroom. Didn't even have any troops around it. Probably never fired around it in its entire existence. Yeah, that was an all-out assault. I'm calling BS, okay? If you follow these establishment media outlets, let's just call it the fake stream news, you know, ABC, NBC, CBS, NPR, I mean, you can't say it all without getting nauseous. You might have gotten the idea that, you know, Trump, in defending his Syria decision, said something along the lines of, if Turkey goes into Syria, it is between Turkey and Syria. It's not our problem. And that was the quote. And that's what the news actors were saying. And that's just not what he said. You'd get that idea because that's what the news outlets claim that he said. Here's what he actually said. It's not our problem, Trump says in Oval Office of Turkey's invasion into Syria. He adds that the Kurds are not angels. Also, he says this, they've got a lot of sand over there. There's a lot of sand they can play with. That's what Josh Dawsey said about 4 days ago. In fact, the president's actual remarks, as video footage and White House transcript reveal, were actually quite different. Are you ready for this? This is what he actually said. Quote, so if Russia wants to get involved with Syria, that's really up to them, Trump said. They have a problem with Turkey. They have a problem at a border. It's not our border. We shouldn't be losing lives over it. That's a big difference, isn't it? It's a huge difference, and I believe it's correct. Here's the thing. Claiming that Trump said the situation in Syria is not our problem makes him seem callous. Saying that is quite a bit less measured. than making the objectively true statement that Syria does not, in fact, share a border with us. Hello, it doesn't. I mean, California shares a border with us, but not Syria. Minnesota shares a border with us, but not Syria. So why did all of those outlets run with the fake quote? Well, according to the correction at the bottom of NBC's news story, and I quote, an earlier version of this article based on a White House pool report misquoted Trump in reference to the conflict in Syria, close quote. Wow. Wow. That's such a poor excuse of an apology. I don't even know what to say. In other words, one of the journalists assigned to the White House media pool got the quote wrong. Oh, wow. But various media outlets, trusting that it was correct, ran with it anyway. Is that reporting? No, it is not. That's propaganda. Of course, it would have taken them roughly, 1 minute? 30 seconds? How long has it taken me to report on this? And I'm doing it, because I'm doing my program. To find a video of Trump speaking to confirm that he said exactly what he claimed the reporter did. And if he didn't, you need to fire that reporter, because they didn't get it right. The basic act of journalism, who, what, where, why, when, the basic act of journalism would have saved all of these outlets considerable amount of embarrassment. And I am honest when I say that I'm speaking on behalf of what we call the mainstream media now, us, okay? We have way, way more viewers than CNN. If you don't believe me, you want to pick up your phone right now? Just pick up your phone right now and just put into any browser you want, any browser that you use on your phone. I don't care if it's DuckDuckGo or Google or whatever. And you do a search for online news outlets. I promise you're going to be scanning for a few hours, because there are many thousands of us out here. Oh, you mean there aren't 6 media giants that own all the online outlets? No. However, Truth Frequency Radio was listed as number 84 on the government's list of fake news media outlets. Yeah, and guess who was right up there with us? Yeah, Drudge Report. We were right next to Drudge Report, right next to Breitbart. Yeah, that's where Truth Frequency Radio sits. Okay, if that's the company you want to put us with, I'll take it. But we're not CNN. We're not NBC. We're not ABC that purposefully sought after, obtained gun range film from Kentucky, 2 years old, edited it, colorized it, and then put headlines on it, and then put a news actor behind it saying that Turkey was conducting an all-out assault on the Kurds, and isn't it terrible? Look at all these people being slaughtered right and left. All you really had to do was look over behind the logo. Of course, you couldn't, because they put it there on purpose. But that logo was placed, right over where the soldiers were standing around smoking cigarettes, watching the fireworks. It wasn't an assault, people. It was a demo. It was a demo. They were just firing weapons for fun, for practice. ABC said, oops, we made a mistake. No, you didn't. You committed fraud. To put it mildly, the network does not have a great track record when it comes to covering the Syria situation. Honestly, I'm going to tell you right now, you've only been listening to it for a week, but I'm here to tell you right now, there ain't no invasion of Syria. Turkey's not invading Syria, because you know what they would run up against? Syrians. Yeah, they would run up against Syrians. And guess who Syria has as an ally? Yeah, Russia. Turkey would run up against Russia and Syria, and Turkey would be going home with a bunch of feathers plucked out of its butt. I'm just telling you, there's no invasion. Now, what they say they're doing and what they are really doing, I don't know. But they say what they're doing is they're clearing the way for a whole bunch of refugees that have been living off the land in Turkey to go back over the border into Syria where they belong. Syrians that left the battle area because, well, the battle's over. ISIS has been vanquished. What was that? No. ISIS is going to come surging back. Listen, ISIS was a creation of Obama and Hillary Clinton. They fed it money. Hillary Clinton took the weapons from Libya that she stole after she assassinated Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. In 2012, they began parking boats in the harbor and loading them up with missiles, rockets, and grenades. The CIA was there to make sure that those weapons were removed from Libya, put on those ships, and then delivered to Syria because they wanted to take Bashar al-Assad out of office. Sorry, that's where ISIS came from, folks. ISIS was a creation. ISIS was a marketing plan. It was a marketing plan. They were given money. They were given equipment. They were given uniforms. They were given intelligence. They didn't even have an air force. And yet they could outsmart our Air Force. Why? Because they were getting phone calls as soon as the jets would leave the air base to come bomb them. Hey, they're on their way. They'll be there in 20 minutes. You guys might want to clean the place up. That's why ISIS existed. Well, I have to tell you, yes, in the Christmas of 2018, Donald Trump and his wife went to visit the troops. And he spoke to the generals on the ground there. One of them was Raisin Cain. I don't know if that's his real name or not, but that was the name President Trump said his name was. Raisin Cain, General Raisin Cain, what's the problem here? Why is this taking so long? And he's, how long would it really take to clean this up? And he said, 2 months. He said, what do you mean 2 months? I'm hearing 2 years from my experts at the Pentagon. He said, well, you're not talking to the right people. I know what happened. I know exactly what happened. Somewhere between the dressing and the mashed potatoes, President Trump said, do it, and call me when it's done. And then he gets back to the United States right after his Christmas vacation over there, meeting with the troops, and he fires Mattis. You're fired. You are fired. Maybe you should have graduated a military academy like me. You're fired. You're gone. You're out of here. And guess what? 2 months later, ISIS was done. Mattis said it would take years. Mattis didn't want us to leave Syria. Mattis said moving these 28 troops to the other side of Taco Bell was a disaster. Susan Rice said it was batshit crazy. Hello? Turned out to be the right move. It always turns out to be the right move. I'm just telling you. Don't be surprised when it comes to the fake stream news, the establishment media. I'm just not shocked at this kind of fakery anymore. I'm not. I mean, it would have been a scandal of the decade if, Walter Cronkite or somebody like that had come out and faked a news report about a war. It just would have been. But now it's routine. It's routine. We expect everything that comes from the fake stream news to be phony. When they say something about President Trump and Iran says, that's not true. We didn't do that. You know what? I tend to believe Iran. I don't believe our own news media. I don't. Anyway, let's move on. We got about 10 minutes in this segment. By the way, if you want to call in, this is a live call-in show. Yes, we are live. It is 213-233-3998, 213-233-3998. The phone lines are open. I'm watching the phone board right now. If you feel you have to step away, I don't want you to because we're live on YouTube and we're live on tfrlive.com for the audio. But if you feel you have to step away, you can still listen. All you need is this right here. And you just dial this number, 425-434-2069. 425-434-2069. We can accommodate millions of you, and you'll get crystal clear audio on your phone while you're driving around or walking at the mall or doing whatever it is you got to do. Take a walk around the block for exercise, which we often do here at this site somewhere east of the Appalachian Mountains. So I'll watch the call board if you want to call in. Let's talk a little bit about antitrust because let me take a sip of my wonderful grapefruit juice here. Sherman antitrust acts were put in place because Standard Oil owned everything. They owned the oil fields, they owned the oil tankers, they owned the railroads, and they owned all the gas stations. And also Ma Bell, what we used to call Bell Telephone. I know many of you don't even know who Bell Telephone is, but supposedly Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone. So naturally, they owned all the phone lines and they owned all the phone switchers. In fact, they owned the phones. You could not buy a phone. You leased it from the phone company. Sorry, that's just the way it was. And then the Sherman antitrust laws were applied, and these companies like IBM and Ma Bell and Standard Oil, they were broken up. They were broken up into separate companies, separate CEOs, separate shares, separate businesses, and it has to be that way in order to protect the American consumer, because the Founding Fathers realized that in order for free enterprise to work, it has to be free enterprise. Yes, you have to have competition. You've got to have separate companies so that who wins? Everybody wins. The consumer wins because we get very high quality and we get very low price. And I guess the only person that you would say maybe loses is the original person that came up with the idea, and their patent runs out and it becomes public knowledge. And then other people can do the things that you don't do very well, and can beat your price and beat your service and beat your product. And that's why there are different levels of quality. That's why there are more than 56 major car makers in the United States, because not everybody, I mean, most everybody, but not everybody believes that a Cadillac Escalade is quality to them. I mean, to them, a Corvette is quality. To them, a Mazda Miata is quality. To them, a Dodge Journey is quality. People are looking for different things. And that's the beauty of capitalism. The beauty of capitalism is that it is all about service. It's all about service to others. I come up with an idea. I go see if people need that idea. I don't care if it's, a child safety product, or if it's a communication product, or if it's a gardening product, something, anything, clothing, a diet plan. People like it. They will buy it. And boom, you're in business. We create these YouTube channels. We go on. You come on and watch it. You're entertained. You're informed. You like it. You buy it. This is capitalism. This is what we do. I'm serving you. You're getting a service, and you're supporting us by subscribing and liking and sharing, right? And you're turning on that little notification bell, so every time we go live, you know about it. That helps us. That helps us. And we help you by bringing you, us, our face, our talent, our voice, our research, and you benefit from it. That's capitalism. It has gotten a little out of balance again, because now the House of Representatives Judiciary Committee expects to have a final report on its probe of big tech. Yeah, the big tech companies and their potential breaches of antitrust law by, I'm going to say 3 months. We'll probably have it out. I think we'll probably have the first parts of it, maybe even next week. The committee has received hundreds of thousands of documents from Facebook, Alphabet's Google, Amazon, Apple, and expecting to get more material in the coming weeks from people like YouTube and Twitter and several of the other tech giants that are out there manipulating not only information, but search results. And I don't know if you tweet. I tweet every single day. I have for over 10 years. You go in and you want to know what a trending hashtag is. So you're typing along and you think, oh, hashtag, Syria. And so you put in Syria, and all of the suggested, quote, trending hashtags are all negative against the current administration. They're all negative. Put in hashtag treason. And everything treason is Trump, 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 Trump. You don't get Hillary. You don't get Holder. You don't get Mueller. You don't get any of the other major players that are currently involved in treason. Adam Schiff, Nadlis, Alexandria Communist Cortez, or any of them. You don't get any of them because they don't want those trending, so they don't suggest them to you. Well, now they have hundreds of thousands of complaints. And it appears, no, it doesn't appear. I used the wrong word. And now they've made the announcement publicly from the highest levels, including the CEO, that they intend to meddle in the 2020 election. Oh, I'm not mincing words here. I mean, they intend to unseat Donald Trump, not by voting, but by preventing people from getting enough information to make a decision on their own. They are making the decision for you. Now, there's a Democrat who says, our hope is to conclude our evidence collection end of this year, beginning of next year, with the idea that we will have a final report instead of recommendations in the first part of next year. And that's typical committee speak. It means, we're just not done with this yet. We're really liking the catered lunch and, appearing like we're busy, and we love being on TV, and we love people watching us on C-SPAN. So we're just not ready to, make a decision. I mean, I didn't really mean to say that. I mean, we're going to think about forming another committee, and then we'll, when we get the committee's results, then we'll, what time is it now? That's exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, he made the comments at a hearing to discuss the effective consumer data collection by big technology platforms on online competition. Rohit Chopra, who's the commissioner of the Federal Trade Commission, as well as experts from Harvard Kennedy School and American Enterprise Institute, participated in the hearing. Now, you have to understand, we're not talking about a little bit of evidence. These are vast troves. These are shipping containers full of consumer data collected by big technology companies that allow them to gain a competitive edge and pose a threat to competition by creating entry barriers and by putting out false information and suggestions, leading people who are not not very investigative, not very discriminating like you and me. You're smart. You know BS when you hear it. They don't. They just believe whatever it is, especially depending on the outlet. If it's MSNBC, oh my gosh, it's the gospel. That's what they said. Anyway, Chopra also said small fines and financial penalties, they're not going to be enough to address the concerns about the power of these big tech firms. To put it in perspective, the top 4 big tech firms have accumulated more cash than the top 7 countries in the world. It makes them about the 4th largest country in the world, just the amount of cash that they have collected. Now, I find this really amazing because, like you, I have a hard time putting a large amount of cash together to do anything. I mean, I can't go out and write a check for a house. I can't go out and write a check for a new airplane or a jet or a vacation property. Not yet. I mean, you may be able to, but I'm not able to. These guys could write a check for a vacation house as a tip for lunch. It's so much money that they don't even think about it.
Hi, my name is Ella, and I'm 10 years old. I'm one of the millions of children born to parents suffering from the sheeple virus. Symptoms include the inability to think for oneself, the attention span of a goldfish, and a strong belief in government and the mainstream media. It is estimated that 1 out of every 2 children are being raised by parents infected with the sheeple virus. But there is a cure. For as little as 19 cents per day, you can become a TFR supporter and help children like me get their daily dose of truth. Together, we will make sure every child has protection from deception.
U.S. troops to Iraq, not home. Butting heads on impeachment. I'm Christopher Cruz. The American troops now leaving Syria are not coming home as President Trump said they would be in a tweet this morning. Instead, they're being sent to western Iraq, where the Pentagon says they'll continue operations against ISIS to try to prevent the terrorist group from resurging. Correspondent Nick Payton-Walsh is in northeastern Syria watching the soldiers leave the country.
The movements we saw beginning today involve this convoy, possibly close to 200 vehicles may be involved in it in the end, beginning to develop at a base near Hasaka. That's where they came together during today, and we understand in the hours and days ahead they will move east through this area is still controlled by the Syrian Kurds and then out to Iraqi Kurdistan.
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo today said the Democrats' impeachment inquiry is unfair and hurts the State Department. He was followed on ABC's This Week by Democratic Senator Bob Menendez, who says Pompeo has been trying to obstruct the investigation from the beginning.
In the oversight of our committee, all he has ever said is no. In the pursuit of the House's information, all he has ever said is no, obstruct, delay, and ultimately not cooperate. So his desire now to cooperate is pretty amazing.
One of the cranes used in the construction of a hotel in New Orleans was toppled today. The explosion was supposed to have taken out 2 cranes, but a large part of one crane is said to be still hanging atop the building. The cranes were badly damaged when the hotel's upper floors pancaked onto each other about a week ago, killing 3 workers. 3 American soldiers were killed this morning during training at Fort Stewart, Georgia, when the Bradley armored vehicle they were riding in rolled over into the water. They died at the scene. 3 soldiers were injured. They were taken to a hospital. I'm Christopher Cruz.
You must unite what has been set aside.
We are TFR, Truth Frequency Radio.
You could join us, you YouTubers. Thanks so much for coming back. We've been on YouTube for, oh gosh, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. And a couple of years ago, we decided to try to do a YouTube simulcast. Didn't work out so well. Had to get a new machine, so now I have this new machine over here. It's dual turbocharged. Double overhead cams. I don't know. It's got the 16 gigabyte graphics card, so it's doing pretty well. Seems to be hanging in there pretty good. The exhaust fumes aren't too bad sitting here at the desk. And so we started aggressively in January this year, starting with YouTube Live. It didn't take long for the algorithms to find us. We went, to nothing. So we switched to outlets. We went to Facebook Live and built up the audience there. Been there for about 4 or 5 months, and then suddenly, out of the blue, for no reason whatsoever that we could find, YouTube subscriptions started pouring in this week. We had, like 50 a day, so it was really getting back to what we used to see. The only thing that I can think of is that the soldier that they had actively blocking us has moved on. He's quit and moved on, and now nobody's watching. And so America Free Radio can begin growing again. So rather than run Facebook Live tonight, we decided to do YouTube Live, and I'm glad we did. It's good that you listeners are back, and I'm happy to have you, believe me. This is a live call-in show, so you can call in anytime you like while the program's live between 8 and 11 p.m. Eastern Time on Sundays at 213-233-3998. 213-233-3998. I will watch the call boards. And we're also simulcasting on TFRlive.com. That stands for TruthFrequencyRadio.com. This is the #1 talk radio network in America right now. We are streaming, somewhere around in the top 80,000 websites on the web in the United States. That's pretty good. And we're bringing it. So hang on a second. We've got a caller in Las Vegas. Let's go ahead and bring him on. Corey, welcome to the program. How are you?
Hi, Brooks. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are things out there in Las Vegas?
Oh, it's a beautiful day today, mid-70s, beautiful day. I had a quick question for you.
Sure.
What about going by, the Hollow Earth? What's going on with Hollow Earth?
Well, I wasn't talking about Hollow Earth tonight, but, there's a lot of new science that came out last year relative to this. The probe that we sent to Uranus, the gas giant in our solar system, returned some very interesting information. We've always considered it a kind of anomalous planet in our solar system because it orbits on or revolves on its orbit, its axis, a different way than the other planets in our solar system. It's clear that something at some time really perturbed the way that planet revolves on its axis. Turns out that there's another planet on the inside of that planet. It has had some kind of collision anciently, and that planet is still on the inside of that planet. So it's another neat piece of information. We've always had this idea that planets form as these kind of molten balls of crud in space, and the fact that they become inhabitable is just mere chance. Certain distance from the sun where water doesn't boil or freeze all the time, and therefore life can proliferate. And some planets have magnetospheres and some planets don't have magnetospheres, and we don't really know what caused that either until now. The last few years, thanks to the people at JPL and thanks to several grants that were given to universities to develop measuring systems so that we could look into the Earth and see how the Earth is built, we have a vastly different idea how planets form. Now we're pretty sure that there's a high probability most planets form as hollow spheres. Some planets form with nothing on the inside. They're just a complete, empty donut hole. And some of them have a heavy metal center that is revolving at a different speed than the outer crust. And the counter rotation between the core and the crust is what creates this strong magnetosphere around some planets. Like the moon doesn't have one, Mars doesn't have one, Earth has one, Venus has one. So we're pretty sure that these planets have cores that are rotating at different speeds than the crust. And that's what we're now at least instrumentally able to verify. And it leads us to believe that also with recent evidence that was found, and not that recent, maybe 10 years ago, about the inner sea, an ocean that has been discovered through seismograms crashing on the shore inside the crust. So now we have ocean, now we have space, now we have some form of energy. It's highly likely that there is some form of life there.
That's awesome. Are we still doing an expedition, or is there anything in the works coming up?
It's always in the works. And yes, we are working with a company out of Australia now. The cost to do the expedition has gone up because the old ships that were capable of making this journey have been decommissioned. The new ship is called the Arctica. It can haul 125 passengers. It has a crew just about as large. It's a brand new nuclear-powered icebreaker. It's a magnificent boat ship. And it's about $3.3 million to charter this boat to make this a journey to look at approximately 10,000 square miles. It's an area of about 100 miles by 100 miles that we're going to be looking at. We think that there's a vent in the crust between our ocean and an inner ocean, and we think that the crust is at its thinnest point here because the ocean's about 4,400 meters deep and it's very, very close to the North Pole. It's a good hypothesis. We're going to try to prove or disprove it. Raising $3.3 million for me, it's been a little bit of a challenge. Not saying I can't do it, but we've also tried other avenues, lots of other avenues, and raising money in the world to try to do something of this size is very difficult.
I'm looking forward to this expedition when it does happen. Oh boy, my cousin and I, man, we're looking forward to it. I'll tell you that.
Well, we're going to try to stream live, not exactly live because we don't have access to all the satellites from that latitude. But what we can do is upload it in packets. About every 2 hours, we can upload the video packets. Those will then download to 2 receiving stations on 2 different continents, different sides of the ocean, and then that will stream out over the web, and then you can subscribe to that stream. So you kind of get a 2-hour delay of what's going on the ship at all times. We'll try to broadcast 8 channels so you can see how 10-story seas affect scientists from Cambridge or Stanford or Washington universities. It could be fun to watch.
Right. You know what's cool though? I like the whole thing, but do you believe that our government would allow that kind of information to us if there is something out there, that expedition? I mean, if it is there, they have to know about it, right? I mean, aren't they trying to maybe hide this information, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm a scientist, so I don't really use believe in my vocabulary, but I haven't had anybody try to contact me, over the last 13 years that we've been running this operation, not from the government. And we've made applications at the Polar Science Foundation for small grants, never got any. And the other thing is that these are Russian waters, so this is the Arctic. It's run by a Russian shipping company. I don't think the American military is going to stop this boat. They don't have a boat that could stop this boat in that region.
Nice.
They're stopped somewhere around the 85th parallel, and we're going to be well above the 90th parallel.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if my information is wrong. I thought there was a treaty or something about those international waters or something. I read something a while back. I'm not too familiar, but thanks for answering my questions, Brooke. I'll be looking forward to it.
Hold on. One of my chatters just stopped me. Not above the 90th parallel, above the 85th parallel. We're going to be at 86 degrees north. If we were above 90, that doesn't make any sense because 90 is as high as you can go. I get it. All right. So this is an area that's been revealed by legend, by history, by maritime records. This is our best guess of where it's going to be. We're going to spend $3 million to try and find out. If we find nothing but whales and ice, it's still going to be one hell of a reality program. I think it's going to be much more entertaining than Deadliest Catch.
We're looking forward to it, Brooks.
All right. Thanks for the call, my friend.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. That's that's live radio. That's the way it goes. And please make sure I've posted the phone number. I think it is kind of small, but you can see it, 213-233-3998 live. It's on the video that you can see on YouTube right now. This is my humble office behind me with my X Squared Radio logo right here. And you can see my artwork here. There's Wonder Woman, and there's Captain America and Iron Man, and there's Captain America over here. And some artwork that I've done, magazines, books, things like that I've been in. So very cool. All right, I want to talk a little bit about the Millstone Report. This is a report we normally do on Mondays and Wednesdays on a program called Quantum Connections, where I co-host with Lucky One. That's a really great program, too, from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, if you want to tune into that. It's also live radio. So this is a little bit different because you may have heard the news about the U.S. and Korean authorities reporting they broke up one of the world's largest markets for child porn, a crime that is proliferating at a furious pace with the rise of cryptocurrency and encrypted online content. And I got to tell you, this investigation was not easy. It was, the data was housed on the dark net. I don't know what the dark net is. I've heard about it. I've never been there. I don't have any reason to go there. Everything I want is on Walmart or Amazon. But it was an Anon who found it and reported it to the FBI 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Now, the Anon got a little concerned, a little scared, because he turned this into the FBI, and it was like, hey, these are all bad guys, and they're moving a lot of money, and here's the evidence. And he got a little worried because of the size and the value of this site, and his observation that nothing was happening. These guys weren't getting arrested, and time was ticking by. Well, my sources say that the FBI brought this information to the IRS simply because the method of currency that these people were using to make the purchases and to invest in this child porn was Bitcoin. Yeah, it's a totally anonymous money, and it protects the buyer from having his identity known. But the IRS can trace the transactions between real money and Bitcoin. You know, you don't just go to the bank and check out a Bitcoin. First, you have to take dollars and you have to give it to the Bitcoin people in order to get a Bitcoin. That's why Bitcoin's listed on the stock exchange. That's why, you know, the Bitcoin price varies between, I don't know, $600 and $10,000. It's still money. It's still cash. Can you buy stuff with the Bitcoin? Yeah, but eventually, somewhere in the equation, the Bitcoin has to change back to cash, you know, in order to make condo payments and, yeah, and buy Lamborghinis and stuff like that. Well, that transaction, even though it's totally anonymous, it can be tracked by the IRS, and they can find out to whom the money is actually going, who's actually doing the buying and the selling. And the IRS, they don't care about porn, they care about unpaid taxes. So, as it turns out, the FBI revealed Wednesday of this last week that the U.S. has unsealed an indictment against Jong Woo Sun. He is 23. 23 is pretty young, but he's an entrepreneur. He's meeting a demand, and he's making huge money. Unfortunately, there are victims. Yes. Prosecutors say he operated a darknet market that accepted Bitcoin and distributed more than 1 million sexually explicit videos involving kids, little kids. Now, Sun, who's a South Korean national, is serving 18 months in prison after being convicted there. Since agents shuttered the site in March of 2018, the authorities have arrested 337 site users around the world. Now, I gotta ask you, if you think there are only 337 site users, I have more than 337 site users, and I would imagine this guy's got a whole hell of a lot more than that. Maybe 33,000, maybe 333,000. They were in countries including, pay close attention, the UK, Germany, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. And in nearly 24 U.S. states, that's about half the country, according to U.S. authorities. The UK government said people in 38 countries were arrested. Now, the site, which encouraged users to upload videos, including hundreds of thousands of illicit images not previously seen by authorities. Authorities say they rescued at least 23 minor victims in the U.S., UK and Spain, who were being actively abused by users of the site, which operated from June 2015 until March of 2018. Quote, "What we are here to discuss today, the sexual exploitation of children, is one of the worst forms of human evil imaginable." That's Jessie Liu, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. That's what she said Wednesday. And she added this: "Children around the world are safer because of the actions taken by U.S. and foreign law enforcement to prosecute this case and recover funds for victims." Close quote. Now, the images of sexual exploitation have mushroomed since 2014, in the middle of the Obama administration, when the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children received reports of 1.1 million incidents of child porn, and by last year, that number had risen to 18.4 million. Now you wonder why reports of hundreds of thousands of children disappearing from around the world. And we're not talking about just Haiti or Syria or Iraq or Somalia. No. We're talking about the streets of our country, the streets of Europe. Kids are disappearing, going into these systems and never coming out. The darknet refers to encrypted online content that hides from traditional search engines. You can't search the darknet with Google. You can't search it with DuckDuckGo or any kind of search engine that I could tell you about. The anonymity of the dark net has fostered crimes like narcotics trafficking, money laundering, child porn. Cryptocurrency has also been cited in a wide range of crimes which people seek to move money anonymously around the world. You want to buy things anonymously in the United States? Use cash. I'm sorry. You don't want anybody to know you're buying name brand green beans? Go use cash. Cryptocurrency is a gateway to hell. And don't think that your identity is being kept secret. It isn't. It's being tracked by someone. Mr. Son's site, called Welcome to Video, contained 250,000 unique videos. Of those, 45% contained new images that were never previously known. The site operated as a hidden service on the Tor network, which concealed the location of the operator and the users. Child sex offenders set up online communities that brazenly promote victimizing children and even infants. I'm sorry, can't read that. That is not news. It's just I don't cover that kind of news. I don't do it here. Mr. Son was indicted under seal in Washington in August of 2018 on child porn charges, money laundering charges. Users could join the site free with a username and password, allowing them to download videos, earn points. Let's see here. Prosecutors also filed a civil forfeiture complaint, also important, to seize 24 cryptocurrency accounts of users who conspired to launder money and possess child porn. Now, this is a good thing, and I'm usually against civil asset forfeiture, but in this case it's a good thing because what these networks reveal are exactly that. Networks of other users, friends, communities, and it spreads. And eventually what's going to happen is all this spreads around back to one or two sources at the top. Investigators from the IRS and Homeland Security Investigations worked with law enforcement around the world. This is difficult to do in silence because there are spies everywhere. And I don't mean anti-porn spies. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that pornography, specifically child pornography, is the gateway into the global syndicate. I know this because if you read my book, Charm of Favor, it was #2 on Amazon at its debut. It's still, I think, in the top 200 books on Amazon. It kind of goes up and down depending on what kind of marketing I do. You learn that these the global syndicate is run by a kind of dark lord, or a set of dark lords, and they have a hierarchy that's very strict. And one of the gateways, one of the initiations to come into this is pornography. And I don't like reporting on these things. There are plenty of others who do, and I'll leave them to it. I try to keep my soul clean by not having these stories in my memory. What I find most interesting is that the addiction to evil is all part of the Dark Lord's initiation and ritual for admission into the global syndicate. Notice the countries involved. There are multiple dark angels working to collect as many human souls as possible. Sound a little, paranormal? A little woo-woo? Maybe a little new age? Not at all, folks. I'm dead serious. There are, for lack of a better word, supernatural beings on this planet who are small in number but work behind the scenes, using men's greed and their lusts for money, for sexual domination, to feed them enough so that they will do the bidding of the Dark Lords. And I mean, this is how these secrets are kept. They use molestation of children as a gateway because they know God has no mercy on such crimes. These dark angels know that once a human has partaken of these images, or worse, much worse, there is no forgiveness. In other words, the Dark Lord receives the soul forever. If you have read the Birth Trilogy or Charm My Favor, you know the mission of Lucifer is to make sure the higher earth returns home empty. I'm going to be on that planet, and if you stay with me, you will be too. Keep close to the news. Watch your eyes out there. We're going to take a break in about 2 minutes. Phone lines are still open. 213-233-3998. When we come back, we'll be at the halfway point. I want to talk a little bit about the Baltimore gang. Just to give you a briefing, okay, this is a big deal. You know, bank robbers in the day, they ran around in, 1920s automobiles with submachine guns, and they robbed $20, $30, $40, $50,000 from a bank, and that was a good month for them. $16 billion of taxpayer funds disappeared into Baltimore, into a small handful of criminal gangs. As the house of Cummings was being torn apart, limb from limb, Elijah was thrust back into power as the committee chair for the House Oversight Committee. Within minutes of receiving the gavel, he began his attack on our president. The best defense, a strong offense. His family, his friends, and his cronies were being raided right and left. We're going to talk about that when we come back. I can just tell you that this is the kind of crime that we have been facing since the global syndicate infiltrated the Roosevelt White House. And it's gotten way worse. We'll talk more about it when we come back. This is X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew. By the way, thank you so much, YouTubers, for joining us tonight. We'll be back right after these messages. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and share, because we're going to grow this network, and we're going to stop these people from trying to destroy our nation. Right back after this.
Discover the extraordinary powers of intuitive healing with pain transmutation, a method of holistic healing for the human soul, body, mind, and emotions. If you are looking for answers and a deep understanding of how to help yourself and the people around you to live a happier, healthier life, this is the right place for you. Learn how to read your soul's history in the Akashic Records, remove negative energy attachments from your astral body, and start the process of inner and outer pain transmutation. Join Pain Transmutation Community to get started on the path of intuitive healing. Change your energetic state, manifest new and exciting experiences, re-energize your life, and build inspiring connections with others in our community.
Hey folks, guess what the #1 phrase that Life Change Tea receives by email? You ready? We love this tea. We love this tea. Time after time, week after week, we love this tea. Life Change Tea gives you more energy, a beautiful cleansing, and fulfills its slogan perfectly, the tea that makes you go. So if you want to be on your health game, log on to getthetea.com and order Life Change Super Strength Tea. Packages come in a 1-month supply, and when you brew this stuff, wait until you see the results. Aren't we all about the results? And with a lot of people's health struggling, we can use a little bit of help. Doctors will tell you disease starts in the gut. So log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Be our next email saying, I love this tea. I love this tea. Get the tea at getthetea.com. Helping America one tea bag at a time.
More than a dozen astronauts have officially reported UFOs. Hundreds of hours of UFO footage were filmed by astronauts aboard the space shuttle. Many of these UFOs can only be seen in ultraviolet light. Retired former Apollo astronauts and cosmonauts now tell their stories of their own personal UFO encounters.
The Enigma Channel, intelligent television for planet Earth. EnigmaTV.com.
Well, okay.
You are now tuned into the truth frequency.
Your protection from deception. TLR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Hey, just by quick announcement, I want to let you know that January 11th, you can see it right here on my screen, January 11th in Seattle, with Eventbrite, I am going to have a live coaching program there. You go to Eventbrite on your app, or you can look on my Twitter or Facebook feed. I'll try to put the information in the show notes below once we upload this so that you can click on it. I'll be in Seattle for one day only on January 11th. This is my live success coaching event. It's 5.5 hours of pure energy. You're going to get my 30 years of experience coaching the Fortune 100 how to make more money. And you're also going to get a tremendously enlightening 90-minute lecture that I only do live. I don't do this on YouTube. It's not available anywhere except my live events. It will activate you. It will open you up And I am going to teach you math and science about resonation, about the use of light, about the use of sound, in order to give you the tools for unlocking the secret to the law of attraction. Now, you're going to hear a lot of gurus. There are a lot of feel-good people out there. I'm not one of them. I'm going to teach you the absolute mathematical rules for the universe. We know that who created the universe, and we know that we're participants in it, live, energetic participants in it. If one of us leaves, the entire universe is going to collapse and have to start all over again. That's how important we are. Don't squander it. Now, I'm going to call this my second chance seminar, because a lot of you already graduated high school, you already decided to or not to go to college, you graduated, you've done your career, your kids are grown, they're out of the house, and now you find yourself somewhere between, hey, I'm too old to hire, and hey, I'm too young to retire. And you're like me, and that's why I'm going to do this, because I know there are a lot of people out there just like me. We're boomers, we're Generation Xers, and we want the purpose for the rest of the 50 years of our life. We're healthy, we're strong, we're intelligent, we have loads of experience and wisdom, and we want to use it. We want to use it to have fun, we want to use it to not necessarily retire, we want to use it to change the world. And if need be, we want to use it to make up that retirement nest egg we never got a chance to save up, because we didn't have a 401k, we didn't have a savings account, I don't have a stock portfolio. I got to make my money now so that I can retire at 65 or 75 or 85, or, you know, if your aspiration is to be a greeter at Walmart, stay home. If you want to do something amazing, I don't care what it is, I will teach you how to dream, I will teach you how to use those dreams, and I'll teach you the math and science behind making it work. January 11th in Seattle. Go to eventbrite.com and click on that date, look up Brooks Agnew, and get the tickets. Unless you subscribe to me or follow me on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, or subscribe to me right down below, I will put the link there, and then you can participate. All right, let's get back to it. I was talking about this Baltimore gang. I do have a caller. I want to bring it on because that's my main purpose, to communicate with you. Let's talk to, let's see, how about Aiken, South Carolina? Welcome to the program. How are you?
Hey, Bruce. Wow, this is Bruce from South Carolina. I don't know what to say. This is quite an honor to come in after you talked to us about your event in Seattle. But this might contribute to it in a way that you were talking about the baby boomers.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's forgotten about the boomers, right? It's all about millennials now. Millennials this, What about us? What about us boomers? Let's do something.
Well, guess what? I got just the perfect story for you.
Okay.
And I lived it through my wife. She was personnel director of a plant in Greenwood, South Carolina. It's a small town, too. Small town mentality. And anyway, she acquired the plant managership. And shortly after she did, I guess 3 or 4 years maybe into the job, New York corporate raiders bought the interior lighting systems plants for Midland Ross, from Midland Ross.
Mm-hmm.
You know the name, don't you? Well, yeah. Midland Ross had 93% of the world's interior lighting for aircraft. Midland Ross is a company mainly dealing with, starting out with runway lighting in the early 20s for aircraft. Well, they were making 93% of the world's interior lighting for all the aircraft in the air, or being designed to be in the air as well. Mm-hmm. Now, Greenwood was the largest plant outside of Ohio where Midland Ross' main plant was. But they didn't only do the interior lighting design and implementations of constructing them. They had another division in that plant for Midland Ross, was jet engine valve replenishing. In other words, they would have to take a valve that was worn out mainly and refurbish it to working order. It had to be perfect. We couldn't have anything wrong with that refinished valve. So these raiders came in and raided. They basically took over the company, and they kept it for 5 or 6 years, and then they sold it to the biggest competitor to the interior lighting company. Millen Ross was, and they only had like 3%, and that was Allied Signal.
Oh,
You heard that name,
so
haven't
did
you?
Allied Signal close it down?
You stole my thunder.
Well, that's usually what happens when you acquire a competitor.
Exactly.
It's not to absorb their business; it's to close their business. So, what happened to your wife?
This plant in the engine refurbishing part of the plant had 100% delivery rate. Now, if you have something in that delivery to wherever it's going to, and they find one valve, something wrong with it, the whole shipment goes back to the plant.
Yeah.
Not accepted.
Wow.
Got me?
Yeah. So
you understand that, don't you?
100% is really great.
So here what they are, Allied Signal has the plant. The plant manager in Arizona that does nothing but refurbish jet engine valves hears about this plant they have acquired. Now, they got it. They can do anything they want to with it. They can close it down. They could bump it up, an industry contributor and everything. He finds out they got 100%. And he don't know how they're doing 100% because this plant, that's all they did, big plant in Arizona, only can get 48% delivery rate. He's going crazy. So he beelines it up to San Francisco. Walks in the manager, the top guy in the American office, office of Allied Signal. Walks in his office and demands to see and keep that plant going because he wants to know how in the world they're getting 100% on those valves. He said, if you close that plant down, I'm quitting. I'm not working with y'all. Y'all are crazy if y'all, shut that plant down. Well, they shut it down, like you said. So anyway, going back to thievery, taking away somebody's occupation, and the baby boomers doing a perfect job.
Yep, see that a lot.
Was a theft to this. Exactly. As a theft
So,
to this nation.
so your pension goes away, your 401k, goes into an account you can't touch to your at least 62 and a half, and you really don't want to touch it to your 65.
I'm talking about the know-how to do something in that perfect manner. We're losing that value that we have or had.
It's true.
As our baby boomers are leaving us in every way.
That's true.
It ain't there no more. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
But
I was I was a chemist in the printing industry, and helped develop a polymer solution for rubber offset print blankets, which is a very polluting, very expensive way to make offset print blankets. I figured out how to do it with photopolymers. It revolutionized the industry. That patent changed the value of the company, almost $400 million. So they turned around, sold the company to the competitor, which was fine. But then the competitor came in and they closed the company. That's also fine. The problem is that they made me sign a 6-year non-compete agreement, global. I couldn't publish or work in the industry anywhere on Earth for 6 years. It put me completely out of business. Now they laid me off. They laid me off 2 months before I was fully vested in my 401k. I lost $45,000.
But see, that ingenuity, all that perfection you went through, all of that knowledge that you were shared out in the community and got that point is gone. That's priceless.
And I'm gone
There's
from
no
that community.
value of money can.
And I'm gone from that community because I had to go find work someplace else. That's what I'm talking about. These are the boomers that I'm addressing in this live seminar below. I can show you. I didn't start this till I was 52 years old. That's right smack in the middle of, hey, I'm a middle-aged person, right? We call it a middle-age crisis or whatever, but I'm going to show you a way to step out of that and step back on the path to success. Come to that.
Well, Brooks,
5.5 hours.
Brooks, you shook my soul when you were talking about that.
Well, I'm going to do more of them. If it goes well in Seattle, I'm going to do a network of these across the country. I don't want people to fly to these. I don't want you to waste it. It costs $47. $47, and I'm going to hand you 2 copies of the book autographed and all the tools that you need in a workbook and my live presentation, plus an hour and a half of workshop one-on-one with you in small groups, and then one-on-one to teach you these tools. Once you have these tools, you can go off on your own and create your own planet if you want to. I always appreciate your calls.
Before I go, if you don't mind. I got a smile on my face and a heart bigger than I ever had hearing you say what you just said about having that seminar. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the call. All right, that's the kind of listener we have out there, and I don't really know what my avatar is. You know, an avatar in the business, we always talk about what's your avatar, what's your perfect market person. You know, it ranges from 18 to 88. Actually, I have people older than that listen to this program, and they listen for a variety of reasons. One is to get the news, and the other is to get these insights. This is a 3-hour talk radio program. It's live. You can call in, and you can make your thoughts known. But I want to talk about this Baltimore gang. Baltimoreans woke up Thursday this last week, just a couple of days ago, to the news that FBI agents were on the move across the city. And this actually occurred a few months ago, but it's on up until now. They were raiding City Hall. And you recall in the news, they raided Mayor Catherine Pugh's homes. Yeah, plural, homes, among other locations, amid what appeared to be a large investigation also involving the Internal Revenue Service. The FBI confirmed its agents were executing search warrants at 7 locations connected to Pugh or her top aides. This is just a small segment of the gang, okay? FBI and IRS agents were observed entering City Hall, the seat of municipal government, but it was unclear exactly where inside the building they were searching. City Hall is home to the mayor's office, the city council president's office, the city comptroller's office, and the offices of council members. But it's also the site of the city law department, the finance department, the Department of Legislative Reference, and the Inspector General's office. The Inspector General is an internal investigation unit inside each government that is supposed to make sure that these kinds of things don't happen unless they're corrupt. You see, Pugh bought her current residence in the 3400 block of Elamont Road for $117,500 just days after being sworn in as mayor. Cash. FBI agents could be seen moving in and out of the home Thursday morning. One FBI agent was seen taking a box labeled as containing Healthy Holly books out of the home. Somebody just told me that the date is wrong. It is. How about that? Well, okay. I can fix that really quick. No problem while we're talking. Healthy Holly books rolling out of the home. And that's the interesting thing, that this is how they hide stuff. This is how they hide stuff. The property was surrounded in yellow police tape on Thursday morning. The FBI raided the office of Mayor Catherine Pugh's attorney Thursday morning. 2 men in suits with boxes waited Thursday morning at the office of Pugh's attorney, Stephen Silverman. There's another name in New York just like that, too. Managing partner of the prominent law firm Silverman, Thompson, Slutkin White Silverman, an attorney who handles high-profile criminal litigation as well as civil litigation and appeals, and who has been a major political backer and donor to Pew, said in a statement that federal agents served a limited subpoena at the law firm for original financial records belonging to Mayor Catherine Pugh. He said the firm had the documents as part of its representation of Pugh during the investigation of her self-published Healthy Holly children's books. Let me tell you how this works, just to give you a briefing of how this works. Bernie Sanders is approached by a group who wants to give him money, lots of it. So what they do is they bring in a ghostwriter who has written a book. They make a few edits. They put Bernie Sanders' name on the book. They take a few pictures. They publish the book. The investor or the influencer comes in, buys 100,000 copies of the book, which immediately rockets it to the top of the New York Times bestseller list. You only need 25,000 copies to get to number one. They buy 100,000 copies of the book, funnel the money to Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders immediately becomes a millionaire. That's how it's done. Bernie didn't write the book. Bernie doesn't know anything about the book. Bernie doesn't talk about the book because he knows nothing about it. But the money is in the bank. And the money was then used to pay off investigators who were prosecuting his wife for bank fraud. They owed money, about $300,000, couldn't pay it. So they went in, made restitution, paid these things off, and the investigation went away. And that's how it's done. So these Healthy Holly books, nobody actually bought them. This is the way the syndicate moves money into these government officials. Then the FBI raided Maryland Center for Adult Training, a nonprofit job training program that Pew once led. Notice it's nonprofit. You know why it's nonprofit, right? It's not nonprofit because it doesn't make a profit. It's nonprofit because it doesn't pay any taxes. It's nonprofit because it has the ability to receive money from other nonprofits. No questions asked. Money moves freely between foundations, like the Clinton Foundation and other foundations. If you go into a foundation and you look at all the donations that come into that foundation, 95% of them are other foundations. This is right out of Chapter 4 of the Clinton Manual for Self-Enrichment. This is the way it's done. It's painstaking. It's hard to put in place. Once it's in place, it is almost impossible for the IRS to trace the money. And notice I said almost, because it is possible. The nonprofit receives hundreds of thousands of dollars in city, state, and federal government money, as well as private grants to train and place individuals in nursing and medical technician jobs. Pew has served as a member and chairwoman of the group's board of directors, a position she disclosed in ethics forms when she was a state senator, but which she has not disclosed since becoming mayor. Other board members include 3 of Pew's former staff members who have since been fired by acting mayor Bernard C. Jack Young. Acting mayor means that Mayor Pew has been thrown out of office. And so an acting mayor has come in and said, oh no, this stinks to high heaven. Everybody that's been with Pew all along is still with her, and they're covering her tracks. Get out. And then the FBI raided the apartment of Gary Brown Jr. Brown was one of Pew's staffers listed as a board member of the Maryland Center for Adult Training. He was fired from his job in the city's lobbying office this week by acting Mayor Young. Brown also worked for Pew when she was in the state Senate. The Baltimore Sun, and for her campaign for mayor in 2017, he pleaded guilty to a campaign finance charge and received probation before judgment after the state prosecutor's office found he used bank accounts of relatives to donate $18,000 to Pew's mayoral campaign. This is the same thing that Dinesh D'Souza was put in prison for 18 months. He had a friend who wanted to donate money. He didn't have the money, so Dinesh D'Souza loaned him the money so that he could donate it to the candidate. The candidate didn't even win the election. But Dinesh D'Souza was put in prison for 18 months, and this is the same offense. Pew called Brown a good employee and kept him on at City Hall. Then the FBI raided Keith Timmons' office. Keith Timmons, Pew's former campaign treasurer and Young's campaign treasurer since 2005. That's 14 years. Said law enforcement officials searched his office on Light Street looking for Healthy Holly material. They're trying to trace the money. Timmons signed the incorporation papers creating Healthy Holly LLC, and the office address listed for him and Healthy Holly LLC state business records appears in some editions of the Healthy Holly books. He didn't know which agency the law enforcement officials at the office were from, he said in a phone interview. Now, I just need to tell you, nowhere in the furthest stretch of your imagination is anybody trying to say that the authoring and selling of Healthy Holly books to Healthy Holly readers is corrupt. It's not. The issue is that these book publishing events are all phony. They're just meant to cover money laundering. Nobody actually buys the books. Maybe the books are given away. Maybe the books are donated after they're bought. But the main thing is to get the cash. The morning of April 25th, federal law enforcement began coordinated raids on properties connected to Baltimore City Catherine Pugh. The 7 raids come amid a scandal involving Pugh, a Democrat, and this is what we're talking about: $800,000 in payments she received in recent years for copies of her self-published Healthy Holly children's books from the University of Maryland Medical System, where she was a board member, and several other entities with business before the city. 800 grand. That's how Bernie Sanders got rich. That's how Hillary Clinton got rich. That's how Barack Obama got rich. That's how Michelle Obama got rich. All these published books are scams. Okay? They're just scams. Hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions, sometimes tens of millions of dollars are funneled into these bank accounts using books as the method of movement. You remember the Awans, right? Imran Awan. These were Pakistanis, they were nationals, they were hired in as tech consultants. They set up the DNC's computers, their laptops, their phones, their text, their emails. Everything was set up by them. Everything was cloned in Pakistan. And they finally escaped the country with all the money, except for Imran Awan, who haven't actually heard from him in a year, was arrested trying to leave the country after putting a second mortgage against his house and sending the money to Pakistan. A little banking fraud, whatever. He's probably out by now. The problem is that all of this fraud, all of this buying of politicians is what the deep state operates on. This is what the global syndicate works on. George Soros's money, Steyer's money, Smith's money, all this Reynolds money, all this money comes funneling into their accounts, and then they own the officials that can make the decisions. Oh, the decisions, I mean, the officials get rich. Who cares about that? That's rich. I'm talking about wealth. I'm talking about enough money to buy a country. That's what's going on with the Baltimore gang. This is X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew. We'll be right back after this. Don't go away. More messages coming right after this. Be good. You YouTubers hang out. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Censorship and regulation is becoming an ever-growing problem in today's modern media. From the mainstream to YouTube and Google, the information you're looking for is buried by official narratives and propaganda. This is why TFR is 100% uncensored, unregulated, and listener-supported. The shows on TFR are not micromanaged by the station, and our hosts are free to speak their minds however they please. As such, the views and opinions expressed on our station are of those who make them. If you happen to hear anything offensive on TFR, please send us an email to toughtitty@tfrlive.com, and we'll be happy to tell you that we really don't give a damn. We stand for freedom of speech and non-censorship. If you also stand for free speech, you can go to tfrlive.com/signup and sign up for a TFR supporter pass and help us in our mission to keep the airwaves uncensored and unregulated. TFR Live, your uncensored and unregulated protection from deception.
U.S. troops on the move. 3 U.S. soldiers killed. I'm Christopher Cruz. American soldiers have begun moving out of northeastern Syria under orders from President Trump. Correspondent Nick Payton-Walsh is watching the withdrawal.
Today is when this troop withdrawal, the largest movement that the forces inside Syria have made. I understand from a U.S. official on this movement, about 500 personnel.
Today, U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper told reporters as he traveled to Afghanistan that the troops will not be going home, but will instead head for western Iraq, where they will conduct operations against the Islamic State terrorist group. The independent Congressman Justin Amash is no fan of that plan.
He's moving troops back into Iraq. He's moving other troops into Saudi Arabia, and he's using our forces almost as mercenaries, the paid mercenaries, who are going to go in, and as long as Saudi Arabia pays us some money, it's good to go.
Amash today on NBC's Meet the Press. In Fort Stewart, Georgia this morning, 3 soldiers killed and 3 injured when the armored vehicle they were riding in rolled into the water during training and tipped over. The soldiers were with the 1st Armored Brigade Combat Team of the 3rd Armored Division. They were riding in a Bradley fighting vehicle. The 3 injured soldiers were taken to the hospital. The retiring Florida Republican Congressman Francis Rooney confirming today that he is open to voting to impeach President Trump.
We only have one thing in our life, and that's our reputation. Everything else is transitory, including life itself. And so I'm not going to ruin mine over anything, much less politics.
Rooney said too many people are, quote, quaking in fear of being criticized by the president. Canada's Conservative Party is running ads that characterize its leader, Andrew Scheer, as bland. It says bland is a virtue and an antidote to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's flash and star power. The Conservatives are counting on stylistic differences between the two men to help them win national elections tomorrow. I'm Christopher Cruz.
Wherever you are, make it TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
Radio final hour here. We're 3 hours live every Sunday night between 8 and 11. And our call-in number is still live, 213-233-3998. Let's see here. Yes, it is posted up there on the YouTube feed. You can see it, 213-233-3998. Yes, I will post a link to the live coaching success event on January 11th, 2020 in Seattle. I'm going to do a series of these, maybe 20 of them or 30 of them throughout the year. They're not going to be conferences. I'm not going to have other speakers. It's not going to be a big event. No more than 500 people at any one of these things. I think I'll do them as low as 30 people. I just want you to go sign up for them, do it local, drive a couple hours is no big deal. You need to get there. $47, best $47 you will ever spend, I promise. You go to hear me at a conference somewhere, you're going to spend between $300 and $1,000. This is just me and you. And you're going to get 15 minutes of one-on-one with me. I select 8 people out of the group coaching to do 15 minutes with me. Ask me anything, and I will give you advice that will change your life, because I have a lot of experience doing this with the Fortune 100. I have a knack for cutting through the crap. I can find out what's going on, what's blocking you, and what needs to be done to fix it. And I don't just mean the esoteric stuff. I'm not just going to, clear away, bad feelings you have about yourself. I'm going to give you nuts and bolts direction on things to do with your business. I don't care if it's a restaurant or a factory. I've done it, and I can help you with it, I promise you. $47 is the best $47 you've ever spent. Let me go ahead and put that ad back up there again, because you just need to see it. It's right there. Go to Eventbrite and put in that date in Seattle and put in Brooks Agnew Live Success Coaching, and it will come up. Or you can subscribe to me on Twitter or Facebook, and you'll see the link right there. Even more important, you can go to my website, any one of them. I prefer x2radio.com. That's all one word, x2radio.com. And right there on the front page is the fan club form. If you fill that out, you'll get it as part of my newsletter. So you get all these wonderful free things, and you know how it goes. Just join. No, I'm not going to spam you. But if you like the stuff that I do and the books that I publish and events that I'm doing, you can stay aware. All right, I want to talk a little bit about the spouse process. This is something that you probably haven't heard yet, but you're going to hear it. If you don't hear it tonight, you're going to hear it at 6 o'clock in the morning when Breitbart Radio starts in the morning with Alex Marlowe. He does a fine job. He's out there 6 to 9 in the morning, which is 3 to 6 in the morning on the West Coast. Pretty dang early to get up and listen to Alex Marlowe. But this actually is the second round of news for the week. The first round is tonight. You're there right now, and you could participate by live calling in if you want to. While Congressman Elijah Cummings reserves his vitriol for all things Trump, and he insisted that the president should be impeached and removed from office, it appears that his own dirty secrets he wants to keep hidden. A government watchdog group Tuesday of this week filed an official complaint with the IRS against the Center for Global Policy Solutions. Yes, it's a 501c3 nonprofit again. Such complaints are routinely brought to the IRS for investigation. However, what is unique about this specific complaint is that it accuses both U.S. Representative Elijah Cummings, the late Cummings, and his wife, Maya Rockeymoore Cummings. This is a big deal because, as you know, suddenly and unexpectedly, I say unexpectedly because when a committee chair, one of the chairs of the four most powerful committees in Congress, is ill and in a hospice, you would think some reporter would say, hey, Chairman Cummings is ill and in a hospice. We knew nothing. Absolutely nothing. We didn't know he was sick. We didn't know he was in a hospital, and we only knew it after he was dead. Go figure. Anyway, CGPS is headed by Maya Rockeymoore Cummings. Yeah, she's the wife to the late Elijah Cummings. In fact, a conservative-based examination of the organization's website reveals that it is staffed by only one employee. One, and that is Maya Cummings. It doesn't have a staff. It's a non-profit. It only has one person. This is out of Chapter 2 of the Clinton Manual for Self-Enrichment. Mrs. Cummings is currently chair of the Maryland Democratic Party, and she is a former candidate for governor. Representative Cummings is chairman of the House Committee on Oversight and Reform, which gives him considerable power to probe Republicans. You might as well just call it what it is. It's the Department of Impeachment. That's what it exists for, and that's what it does. It's there to impeach the president. This is what... Let's just scroll down here a little bit. All right. CGPS has received millions of dollars in grants from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and in late 2017 was granted a $1 million contract from guess who? Yep, the government, the General Services Administration. And you know about me and the General Services Administration. The GSA has 12,500 employees, average salary about $100,000 a year. They are eBay for government. In fact, eBay could do what they do way better. Way better. Way better. But the GSA exists nonetheless, and the only thing you know about them is they had a little scandal there in Vegas where they spent a little bit too much money on the booze, and they got caught. And one of the people that was heading up the GSA had to retire forcefully, but everybody else is still there, and they're still rocking. Well, I say rocking, but there's one thing that they don't do. Now, they don't do the trade shows anymore. You remember the trade shows back in the day? What would happen is a small business would come up with an idea like, hey, let's build some electric trucks and sell them to the U.S. government so they can use them on bases to reduce their fuel consumption. So we go to the GSA and we apply for a bunch of grants and we go through all the process and we get zero. Nothing. Nada. Nothing. We're squeezed out. No electric trucks, no electric vehicles, nothing. All the money, all the $23.7 billion in the Advanced Vehicle Technology Manufacturing Grant went to GM and to Navistar and to all the big buddy donors of the Obamas. Nothing went to actual new technology, not a dime. So we know all about this GSA. Anyway, the funds were purportedly provided to fight childhood obesity. You know, fat kids. We're going to fight fat kids. The written complaint asks the IRS with tongue-in-cheek to investigate whether its organizers are getting fat off the grants. Oh, yeah, they were. While heading CGPS, which appears to be nothing more than basically Maya, right? She heads, staffs, is the chief cook and bottle washer for CGPS. And she keeps all the money. So the two supposedly separate groups, the nonprofit and the for-profit, have shared office space, the same telephone, the same address, which are all flagrant violations of the Internal Revenue Code. By the way, it's also a violation of the GSA guidelines. You have to have another person as an auditor. They have to be able to come in and make sure, A, you're paying a prevailing wage, you're obeying all the rules, you're dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's, filing all your reports, filing your invoices, getting paid for the invoices. One person cannot do that. Well, I mean, one person could do it because it's not that difficult to do, but one person's not allowed to do that. Another of the cited violations is a failure to provide a disclosure copy of IRS Form 990 when it was asked for. So according to Tom Anderson, director of the NLPC's Government Integrity Project, who uncovered the violations, Representative Cummings is demanding President Trump's tax returns and his financial records, but they don't want to turn in their own. To tell you the truth, many of my law enforcement colleagues believe that Cummings is keeping the Trump-Russia collusion nonsense on everyone's mind so the elite media will have an excuse to avoid this little, indiscretion in the Democrat politicians' hanky-panky back room. Cummings has been struggled are struggling with serious financial problems after joining Congress over 20 years ago. His house was placed in foreclosure at one point. He owes $30,000 in unpaid taxes to the IRS. Do you? I didn't think so. And he was taken to court multiple times for thousands in unpaid debts, charge-offs, judgments, etc. He has crap for credit. Cummings said in his financial difficulties were due to his hefty child support payments. Yeah, I'll bet. So it gets a little worse, because the only thing that can keep an investigation into corruption from happening is a committee focused on not letting that happen. So, you guessed it, less than 72 hours after Master Cummings dies, Mrs. Maya Cummings announces she is running for his seat in Congress. Yes, there it is. Maya Rockymore Cummings, failed candidate for governor, is a policy consultant and a wife of U.S. Representative Elijah Cummings. She announces a couple of days ago that she is joining the ranks of Democrats hoping to unseat Republican Governor Larry Hogan, who is seeking a second term. But now she's running for Representative, her husband's seat. By the way, she says, "I'm not a typical politician. In fact, I'm not a politician at all." She said in an online video outlining her plans for Maryland, "I'm a change agent with real-world experience." Oh, I'll bet. I'll bet. Is that in the Healthy Holly books, by the way? Anyway, claiming that Maryland is punching below its fighting weight. That's a real favorite term for Elijah Cummings, who was allegedly beaten up during the Martin Luther King Jr. March in Selma. And it was a picture of him with blood running down his forehead that got him elected as congressman and has kept him in office all these years. Anyway, she said too many families are struggling economically, public schools don't have enough resources, and violent crime continues to escalate. I mean, she sees that every day when she drives around the streets of Baltimore. That's exactly what has happened under Democrat leadership in Baltimore. And this campaign quote, this just came out just a few hours ago. This campaign is just, it's just coming out. "We need a leader with fresh ideas and clear metrics so that we can hold our government accountable for results." Wow. I always find it ridiculous when swamp creatures or their wives, Murkowski, say that the office needs fresh ideas. Quote, "My husband is now dead. It's time to carry on the same old business because it's making us rich." Maya Cummings comes straight out of the gang. She served as a congressional aide and as chief of staff to New York Representative Charles B. Rangel. She also worked for the National Urban League and the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. She is currently president and CEO of Global Policy Solutions, a Washington-based consulting firm with one person in it that she founded in 2005. Yep, it's a firm. She received millions from taxpayer funds to consult with people trying to do business in Baltimore. That's called paying for playing. And just look at how many jobs and how well educated her husband's district has been for the last 30 years. Maya Cummings joins a list of several other Democrat gubernatorial hopefuls, including a former policy aide to Michelle Obama. I think this race will be about name recognition, don't you? It goes on and on. I just get so sick of reporting on this stuff. The Baltimore gang is being shut down. And hopefully, we're going to go after the other 200 sanctuary cities in 28 states. Yeah, didn't you know? 200 sanctuary cities in 28 states, all operating straight out of the Clinton manual for self-enrichment. And we're not talking about billions, people. Nope. We're not even talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. We're talking about $1 trillion a year. $1 trillion a year being ripped straight out of your wallet and straight into these criminal gangs operating all over the country, inside our country. This is the heart and soul of the global syndicate. This is how they operate. You win favor with the global syndicate in these organizations and you win office. Just ask Michael Madigan in Chicago how it's done. I was going to say Elijah Cummings has a lot of explaining to do, but he did. Join McCain, join Bush, and it was kind of interesting because Wednesday night I was co-hosting a program called Matrix of Perception, which is a program that is normally hosted by the beautiful and gracious Monique Lassan. She's a private investigator. Her website is called I Investigate, like EYE, investigate.com. She does a great job. She's been busy on a big case. She's been busy with a book and doing a documentary, and so I was helping to co-host her program. In co-hosting the program, my other undocumented co-host, Dan Willis, a longtime friend of mine, and I were interviewing Jordan Sather. Jordan Sather is a millennial. He's sharp, he's smart, he has a hot, huge YouTube following, and he is a big QAnon analyzer, and he does a really good job at it. Probably going to produce a book about it, but we're talking to him about everything that's going on with the deep state, what I call the global syndicate. And he makes a rather unusual remark. It wasn't flippant. No, it wasn't, not at all. It was a comment where he said, you watch and see if I'm not right. Soldiers, high-ranking soldiers inside the cabal, which is also the deep state, which is also this global syndicate operating inside our own government, they're going to start dying off. He said he saw John Podesta, or one of his people saw John Podesta the other day, looked really sickly, but John Podesta's always looked sickly. But Bill Clinton's looking bad. He didn't go down the list, not a lot of names, but he said, you watch. Mysteriously, suddenly, they're going to start dying off. 4 hours later, 4 hours after he said this on my program, Elijah Cummings was dead, and we didn't even know he was sick. I'm just saying, people, this is why people listen to this program, because we are right here at the little frothy edge at the front of the leading edge of the wave. All the other news organizations are chasing us. All right. I want to talk a little bit about something that happened locally here, University of North Carolina. It turns out that they have organizations inside the university that are ending free speech. Halloween's coming up. It's a big time holiday here in Charlotte, North Carolina. A lot of people celebrate it. A lot of people only celebrate Halloween. It's a big thing here. And a socialism graveyard display was built to kind of represent the way this student organization felt about socialism. Anyway, according to a report by the College Fix, it's an anti-socialism display constructed by conservative students at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. It's about 14 miles from here. Was destroyed less than 24 hours after it was installed. The display, a socialism graveyard, was designed to illustrate the 100 million people that were killed by socialist and communist governments just in the 20th century. So for people who say universities aren't censoring speech, here's a little bit of perspective. The club, the YAF, spent their own money and hours to put together a Halloween display bringing attention to the dangers of socialism. This is one of the club members, Shambach, who wrote in this post. Here's what he said, and I quote, "We put the display in the same location as we had previously displayed nearly 3,000 flags for 9/11, she said. We put it up last night, and by 10 a.m. this morning, students or administration had removed the display. We are going to get to the bottom of this and are talking to school administration to resolve this issue, but just be aware, free speech is under attack," close quote. And it is on American universities. Socialism is alive and well. I will tell you, there's a lot of ways into socialism, but there's only one way out, and that is violence. I need to tell you a little bit about what I call Operation Morning Glory. General Paul E. Vallely, who's Major General U.S. retired, was interviewed by a show host, Mike Flip, on Americanuck Internet Radio of Canada. This was about 5 days ago. In a wide-ranging interview, Philip and Vallely talked about QAnon. This is a question that was formulated for more than a year. Americans have been alerted to a presence on the defense side that up until now remained a mystery. For those of you who bought the book Charm a Favor from me, let me go ahead and put that book ad screen back up there so you can see Charm a Favor in the rotation. You may have had a chance to look at the spine of the book and notice the small gold Q at the bottom. Why did I put that there? I can tell you that many of the things I wrote in the book were known by no one at the time I wrote them. I have an ability that I have had since I was a little child. I cannot control it. That is to say, I can't turn it on and off. I can see through time and through physical matter. I can see what is about to happen or clarify what has happened. I cannot do it on command. It just comes to me. When I finished the Birth trilogy, I was awakened in the early morning with visions of what happened in the Pentagon and in the deepest caverns of Washington, D.C. The murders, the briberies, the weapons that were being designed, sold, and stolen were all made clear to me. When I began writing Charm a Favor, I didn't even have the title of the book. I only had the chapters flowing like high voltage as I sat behind my computer for months writing. A few weeks after I started writing, there was an Anon that appeared who called himself Q. Well, I can tell you the first thing we did was try to debunk him or her, whatever. And what came to me was a small group of extremophores who were remote viewing and using technology to enhance their abilities. They were my clansmen from Scotland. We all have the same abilities. They were streaming to my mind. As I was writing the book, they were posting what they called drops in a line of breadcrumbs to lead the community of autists and pattern junkies to the bad guys. No army like this has ever been assembled before. We always thought we were alone and that we had a sort of mental illness. Well, it isn't a mental illness. It's a mental enhancement that allows us to see through time. It's a tricky thing because we take action on what we have seen, and when we do, we change the future again and again. It becomes a juxtaposition like a rat's nest in time. And a few of us have learned how to negotiate these jumbled junctions in time. I'm going to tell you more right after this. Don't go
Extendivite, a 7-herb combination made from garlic, cayenne, hawthorn, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Extendivite feeds our body with the right nutrients to keep us healthy. Just listen to what Arthur has to say.
I was just calling to tell you what a great product you have. I had used this about, 10 years ago after I had congestive heart failure. And it fixed me up and got me going for the last 10 years. Lately, I've been having heart trouble again. So I placed another order because this was the only thing that ever worked. And I just wanted to let you know that you have a great product.
To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Jacob Frank Leibovich is the mastermind behind a global network of satanic cults. He taught that the Creator God was evil. Jacob Frank proclaimed himself as the true Messiah. He vowed never to tell the truth. He rejected every moral law and declared that the only way to a new society was through the total destruction of civilization. Murder, rape, incest, and the drinking of blood were perfectly acceptable actions and rituals. His followers established the Marxist system and have infiltrated Islam and Judaism. He was the Messiah of the Illuminati.
EnigmaTV.com.
Real people, real radio.
Initiating the truth frequency.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
I've been waiting for this moment since my first breath in. Never would have thought I'd be afraid to begin, but here I am, the edge of the water, wondering if I can swim. Never seem to notice all the days pass through, but in this final moment, I'm still chasing the truth. I want an explanation why I can't stay here forever in my youth. And if I press on, will you wait? Will you wait for me forever? Or would it be wrong to ask you to come with? Tell me, will you wait?
If it was my choice, I would stay with you forever. So the reason I bring this up is a few days ago, this interview was given. Now, the answer to the question thousands of us have been asking for a couple of years now was given. Listen closely, and you're going to learn who we are. General Vallely was asked by a listener in Mike's chat room on his website. It's been posted in the YouTube stream there. It's americanuck.com. This is the question. As we've been waiting for this to come out in public for a while, and this is the first time someone in authority was actually asked the question. Here's the question. Who's the individual calling himself or themselves Q? General Vallely answered the following, and I quote, QAnon is information that comes out of a group called the Army of Northern Virginia. This is a group of military intelligence specialists of over 800 people that advises the president. The president does not have a lot of confidence in the CIA or the DIA, that's the Defense Intelligence Agency, much anymore. So the president relies on real operators who are mostly secret operations types of people. This is where Q picks up some of this information, close quote. Now, Mike Phillips spoke about 8chan being dropped and relaunched as 8kun, K-U-N, which would be backed up by a military satellite. That's still in the works. It hasn't happened yet. It could happen tomorrow. General Vallely said he didn't know about that, but that there was a separate internet being created, one that could not be compromised because it is so high-tech. He said the Chinese are working on the concept as well. QAnon is expected to be posting on 8kun very soon. General Vallely discussed the 5 biggest threats facing our country today. Of course, movement toward a socialist state, cartels and illegal border crossers, China's expanding military and continuing support of North Korea, and I would say elements inside our own country are trading with them right now, China Joe, undermining of Europe, and the education of youth. And that's one of the big areas that the global syndicate operates, is in our education system. So, referencing the Department of Justice Inspector General report rumored to be released Friday, this last Friday, it wasn't. It will be soon. General Vallely expressed concerns about possible Antifa protests breaking out around the country. He also said Antifa is very well funded. General Vallely calls on all mayors to stand up against Antifa protests or be arrested for not keeping them out. Now, some of these individuals, the 800, they have a unique talent. And they don't just use data analysis. We can all do that. Of course, they have access to data you and I don't have access to, but it's beyond that. They're also using remote viewers. And that explains a lot, because that's how I was receiving the information. Even my editor, who I was feeding information to, of course, feeding chapters to be edited, to get ready for publication, she was saying, where is this coming from? How are you getting this information? Who is your source? And I had to tell her, I don't have anybody. I'm sitting alone on a porch with no internet. A screened-in porch in the middle of the country, no interruptions. I'm sitting there writing. I'm writing so hard, my hands ache. 50,000, 80,000, 100,000 words. It just kept flowing and flowing and flowing. If you read the book Charm a Favor, you're going to be taken on a trip, and you're going to find out some things about our government you never knew. It starts pre-Revolutionary War back in the 1700s. It takes you all the way up to about 6 months from now in the future. All this information is true. Everything in the book. My fictional characters, of course, are not. But my fictional characters are there only to hold you by the hand and take you through the stories in the book. Chapter by chapter, you will see this global syndicate unfold. And it centers around a war that is being fought inside the Pentagon, between the Pentagon and the tunnels and all the way to Washington, D.C. We're watching that unfold right now. Remember, I wrote this in the year 2011. I wrote it as a screenplay. It sat there doing nothing. And in 2015, when Donald Trump announced he was running for president, it all just kind of clicked. And I decided I couldn't wait to put it into a movie. I was going to put it into a book. Pulled out the screenplay and began writing, and what was an 89-page screenplay turned into a 422-page thriller. And you can get it. Just go to Amazon, pick it up. And by the way, if you buy the paperback or the Kindle, you get the audiobook for free. The instructions for getting the audiobook are right inside the book, so you can do that. All right. Also, want to let you know there's been a very curious set of patents recently filed. Yes, a mysterious set of patents have recently been filed by a U.S. Navy researcher, and I thought it was rather anomalous, so I thought I would report it to you. Now, these patents describe exotic technologies that do not exist in commercial or military spheres, as far as I know. And that usually, they only surface in UFO lore, okay? Maybe at disclosure cons and stuff like that, you hear about it, but no one's ever really filed a patent. But these include high-energy electromagnetic force fields, revolutionary propulsion systems, and a hybrid aerospace underwater craft. The newest patent is for a practical fusion reactor, not fission, not nuclear, fusion reactor that could be stored in aircraft to help achieve unimaginable speeds and maneuverability. Now, the mystery around these patents continues to grow during a time in which the Navy and the State Department have been stunningly reversed their decades-old policy of not acknowledging UFO sightings. The Naval Air Warfare Center Aircraft Division is the home of the high-level Navy researcher, the equally mysterious Salvatore Cesar Paez, who in recent years has filed patents for supposedly operable revolutionary technologies such as room temperature superconductors and the high-energy electromagnetic field generators. But the most surprising patents concern the hybrid aerospace underwater craft, which can supposedly navigate with equal precision through space, air, and water without leaving a heat signature and engineer the fabric of our reality as the most most fundamental level. I could go and read you all this patent information, but that's not really the news, okay? The news... My lab has been working on radiant energy thrusters for small CubeSats that may be able to achieve speeds of 0.3 light speed or even faster. Right now, they don't produce much thrust, but they require no fuel, and they may be able to be scaled up to push 200,000 metric tons through space. Believe me, it is practical and it is real. Of course, we haven't filed any patents. Why? Well, that's really the news story. That's really the news story. Because I don't think the Navy came up with these ideas at all, but they filed the patents. You see, it also leads me to have a great amount of suspicion about these recent filings for these advanced technology patents. And I am very suspicious about it. Because you see, the America Invents Act, which was signed by Barack Obama on 16 November 2011, it actually changed the U.S. right to the patent from the previous first to invent system to a first inventor to file system for patent applications filed on or after March 16, 2013. This is a big deal. You may not think it's that big of a deal, but as an inventor, as a patent holder, I can tell you it's a big deal. Because many legal scholars have commented that such a change would require a constitutional amendment. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 of the U.S. Constitution gives Congress the power to promote the progress of useful arts by securing for limited times to inventors the exclusive right to their respective discoveries. And the scholars argue that this clause specifically prohibits a first inventor to file system, because the term inventor refers to the person that created the idea, not the person that paid for it. The change has not been short of detractors. IEEE stated in a submission to the House Judiciary Committee that we believe that much of the legislation is a disincentive to inventiveness, and it is. Supporters of the rule change argue that it aligns the U.S. with the rest of the world. Well, the rest of the world is corrupt, okay? It actually says the first one with the money wins. And I have news for you. You may not know this, but that is never, and I do mean never, the inventor. It is always the corporation that he works for, or the corporation he discloses work to for support. They run to the patent office and they file, and boom, it's their patent. I can tell you the difference between the real inventor and the fake inventor. It's important that you know this. The difference between a real inventor and a fake inventor is that a real inventor has a notebook full of awesome ideas and inventions. A fake inventor has only one, and he stole that one. So when it comes to this set of new patents being filed, you mark my words. This is a game, and it's being played by large corporations or even by governments who are trying to change the investment landscape. That is to say, they are trying to make enemies spend all their money trying to catch up. Of course, it may not work, because there are people like Joe Biden who will happily sell them all the advanced technology they want for a nominal fee. All right, I want to talk to you about a project I call Moon Shadow. Not Cat Stevens' Moon Shadow. But NASA's already pulling together plans for what would become its first long-lived robotic rover on the moon's surface, designed to sniff out water and targeting a landing date of 2022. This is important this year, 2022. This is the year that the new star will appear. How do I know that? 1800 years ago, there was a star that exploded in the Summer Triangle. I know this because it destroyed the world I lived on. All right. So the light from that 1800 light years ago is going to arrive here in August of 2022. And you're going to see that light. It'll last for about 3 months and then it'll go away. It'll be the only remnant that I have of anything that happened out there. It's an important year. Everybody's going to freak out. And of course, I'm going to be here to explain it to you. So don't worry about it. You'll be okay. Now, right now, that rover, which is called a Volatiles Investigation Polar Exploration Rover, or VIPER, got to come up with an acronym that's cool, right? It's just a mission concept. But if all goes well, the project could develop a long-lived mobile robot that can hunt for water and other volatiles near the south pole of the moon. Now, we're already heavily ensconced in the intersection between science and exploration. Brad Bailey, who's the program scientist with NASA's Lunar Discovery and Exploration Program, said a couple of days ago, on the science side, understand how water arrived at our closest neighbor. That would be interesting to know, but I don't really think that's the big study, okay? The big study is there water there, and can it be used to produce water and oxygen by a settlement on Mars? Now, scientists have already confirmed the existence of sizable chunks of frozen water on the moon because, let's see if I can go back here. I want to talk about the L-Cross mission. As it stands right now, NASA's soft-landed mission to the moon was Apollo 17 in 1972. That was the last one when humans set foot on the moon. The agency also has flown over and has flown lunar rovers designed to work with humans during the latter 3 Apollo missions. These rovers carried some instruments, but primarily served as, fancy jeeps to drive around on the moon. And that means that although VIPER won't necessarily be the first mission to land the moon-focused Artemis area, it would be NASA's first lunar rover in decades and the agency's first independent rover ever. China sent one up there. India sent one up there, but unfortunately is dead. It arrived It landed, and they haven't been able to communicate with it, so they say. But NASA wants to do something more. The agency wants Viper and other future missions to keep gathering data through the night without shutting down for safety. One of the biggest technologies that needs to be developed is being able to survive and operate through the lunar night. Although, we got to say, in the polar regions, you should be able to have sunlight 24 hours a day. Working through the night would double the amount of observations that could be made. Yes, it would, but you're going to have some batteries that can survive at 200 below zero. Viper would let engineers test technologies designed to let lunar rovers work through the night, yes, but it wouldn't tackle those specific science measurements. The last big project we did to look for water on the moon was the L-Cross mission. Let's see. L-Cross, if you'll remember, was in April. It was selected in April of 2006. The flight concluded in October of 2009. No, we didn't bomb the moon. Okay, stop that. We did not bomb the moon. L-Cross is nothing if not a success story when it comes to understanding moon water. The mission, which launched with NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, watched a rocket stage crash into the moon and studied the plume, the explosion that occurred, when something strikes the planet at Mach 8. It splashes a lot of material into the atmosphere, which there's no atmosphere in the moon, but you get the idea. It's a big scattering of material. Early in the morning on August 22nd, 2009, L-Cross ground controllers discovered an anomaly caused by a sensor problem, which had resulted in the spacecraft using up 140 kilograms of fuel, more than half of the fuel remaining at the time. According to Dan Andrews, the L-Cross project manager, our estimates now are, if we pretty much baseline the message, meaning just accomplish the things that we have to do, it'll still be in the black on propellant, but not by a lot. So on its final approach to the moon, the shepherding spacecraft and the Centaur separated. They came apart. So October 9, 2009, at 1:50 UTC, the Centaur upper stage acted as a heavy impactor, okay? It was a dead weight, and it was dropped onto the moon at about Mach 8 to create an excellent, clean debris plume that rose above the lunar surface. 4 minutes after the impact, the shepherding craft flew right through this debris plume, and it collected spectrographic data right before it struck the lunar surface and splattered. So the impact velocity was projected to be about 5,600 miles an hour. That's not survivable. The Centaur impact was expected to excavate about 350 metric tons of lunar material blown up into the air, right? And it made a crater about 20 meters deep, which is way deeper than we could possibly drill. So all this material gets splattered up into the air, and the sensor part of the craft flies through the dust and takes samples. The spectral analysis of the resulting impact plume absolutely confirmed preliminary findings by the Clementine and Lunar Prospector missions, which hinted that there may be water ice in the permanently shadowed regions of the poles. Mission scientists expected that the Centaur impact plume would be visible through amateur-class telescopes with apertures as small as 30 centimeters. It's about 12 inches, about this big. But no plume was observed. It's too far away. It was too small. The presence of water means that a mission to the polar regions of the moon would be able to recover and utilize molecular water to make water and oxygen in sufficient quantities to sustain a settlement. So for the record, we did not bomb the moon in 2009. We dropped a dead weight, an empty gas tank, and a bunch of sensors. And then we analyzed the dust plume ejected into the air from the impact. It was a brilliant, brilliant plan B. the detectors on the Centaur unit were able to confirm the presence of water in the moon's polar soil. That's why we're going back to the moon, and that's why a settlement will be successful there. So, in the final minutes, I wanted to just let you know a little bit about remembering the future. This is part of the presentation that'll be given on January 11th, 2020 in Seattle. Find out about it. Go to the Eventbrite. App. It's easy to do. Load it on your phone. Go there. Put in the date 1/11/20 in Seattle. Look up my name or Live Success Coaching. There's very few events happening on that day. Believe me, nothing. No football. There's no tennis. There's nothing competing against this event. It'll be the best $47 you spend in your life. This is part of it. You see, the universe is the mathematical sum of the intentions of every sentient being in it. That's you and me and the other people that are alive on this planet and maybe 3 trillion other sentient beings in this universe. There are a little more than 6 billion realities alive on the earth at the publishing of this book in the year 2015. When I wrote this book, there are nearly 7.9 billion people alive. Every one of them is perfect for the being who observes it. Regardless of whether sentient beings are conscious, they are conscious or not. The formula cannot be usurped by any force, not even God or a whole host of gods can change that. The free intention of any being is the charge and right of that being to exercise it to his or her will. Should God change the intention of a single sentient being, the entire universe would collapse. The consciousness that holds energy together to form matter would be destroyed forever, at least for this eternity. After nearly 30 years of scientific research and engineering, I became highly trained in analyzing complex processes. Classically educated as a physicist in instrumental analysis, I learned to appreciate the nuances of the observation effect. As Nicolas Cage's character stated in the opening narration of the movie Next, the future changes just because you looked at it. The purpose of this event is to awaken you to the idea everything, past, present, and future, can be affected by the intention of a single sentient being. The extent of that effect is as variable as the number of sentients in the set of numbers, and for each of us is different. It isn't designed to bury you in math formulas, although I had to include some in this presentation to show you the relationships. You're going to take a trip through sound, through light, through the relationship of energy and mathematics, and how you fit into that formula. You are an energy input into the formula. It's vast, it's powerful, and it is irrefutable. And it works for good or for evil. Believe me, the dark side knows these principles very well, and they use them every day against you. I'm going to teach you how to use it in favor of yourself, in favor of your own game and your own dream and your own creation. And if you can get friends to join you, that's even better. If you can get a community to join you, that's even better. If you can get a nation to join you, that is a total game changer. But for you, for the bounty of the universe delivered into your hands, I'm going to give you the tools. And these tools are absolutely, positively irrefutable and scientific. They're not woo-woo. There is some meditation involved. There's some breathing involved, but that's only to get you so that you can listen, because you are the biological transducer. You're the instrument that receives the information. I'm going to teach you how to receive it. This is X Squared Radio. I am Brooks Agnew. And I'm wanting you to know, to have. Hang in there, YouTube.